All right, here we are talking about coaching. As always, I'm Yannick. I'm here with Nikki today. Severs couldn't make it. She's traveling. Hey, Nikki.
Hello, hello. Good to see you.
Hello to Greece. You're still
Thank you
traveling
very
around the
much,
world.
as always.
um, well, I cut to the chase. We have somebody asked about the how to deal with the I don't know client. The client that just doesn't seem inspired to go into the inquiry, that often responds with I don't know, and we ask so many questions and we get the same thing, some variant of I don't know. It kind of shuts down the curiosity. It's poison to the passionate coach, and so it's really frustrating. So the question comes up quite a lot, and I'm like, oh my god, like nearly 90 episodes, we haven't talked about the I don't know client. We got to remedy that. So here we are today talking about coaching and the I don't know client. I don't know, Nikki, any first thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's something I definitely feel is familiar, both perhaps like from myself in my own sessions with coaches or in therapy. It's definitely something that I'm also familiar with, like from my, personal relationships. And then to some greater or lesser degree, I do feel like there has been coaching sessions where I've had clients who, they obviously come to coaching because they're trying to find more clarity. And yet when you ask them questions, there's a kind of, yeah, sometimes the answer is, I don't know. And with no follow up, it's kind of almost like a resistance or a block. I don't know. So yeah, I'm curious if we can come up
To
with
say
any
I don't
good
know.
strategies. I don't know. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I think one easy cure for this, or well, not easy perhaps, but if people pay a decent amount of money for coaching, or they have some sort of exchange that feels like a bit of a stretch, people come to coaching super motivated. So my general sense from supervising a lot of coaches is that they're getting this problem less and less the more experience they get, because it usually means that they're professionalizing more and that people come to coaching with a clear agenda. They really want to do something and they're really invested in figuring something out, which makes it much less likely that they're in this I don't know phase, right? So that for now, if you're currently working for free or at very low cost, but also if you're doing agency work, right, you can be quite experienced, but you're working with clients and organizations that don't pay for the coaching themselves. They just kind of say yes to the opportunity of getting coached, or they're being sent to coaching, and there's this inner rebellion. I shouldn't really be here. I don't need coaching. I'm okay, which is, and doesn't make sense to a coach, but it happens a lot that people get sent to coaching and they don't really want to engage in it. So this I don't know, it's often just kind of shutting down the
Mm.
process because people don't really know what to do with it or don't really feel like they want to engage in the process. Maybe there's some sort of defense mechanism of if I were to really engage in this inquiry, I would have to face some uncomfortable stuff, right? I don't really want to open that door when I start really thinking about it. Some doors are opening; they're a bit scary to open, right? So this I
Mm.
don't know could also be a defense mechanism against that.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead. I mean, I was just going to say, yeah, as you've been speaking there, and what's kind of been coming up for me, is that, I definitely think that I don't know can mean different things and is an opportunity to almost like investigate further with the client, like, where is this I don't know coming from? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so that defensive one is a potential, right?
Mm.
But there could also
Yeah.
be that they just don't have the knowledge, right? If we take I don't know at face
Yeah.
value, then it's I
Hmm.
don't know. It's not like I don't know, I don't want to think about it, but it's like I don't know. I'm like I am out of knowledge. Like, so
Hmm.
we could respond to this in a way of like, well, what do you need to know in order to know?
Hmm.
So we could really just approach it in a way of let's create some more knowledge then, right? If it's a protective
Hmm.
response, it's a different way of responding to it, right? Something like, oh, I'm getting the sense that you don't really want to open that door. or I'm
Mhm.
getting the sense that you're protecting yourself of something by saying I don't know, right? These are assumptions we can throw out there and just kind of see how they sit. But we can also share what's coming up for us as coaches as we hear this I don't know. What kind of I don't know is this I don't know? Do you really not know? Do you need more knowledge? Are you protecting yourself? Do you maybe not really want to go there in some form?
Mm.
What comes up if you go deeper? What sits behind? What if you did know is an interesting question that I sometimes ask.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
sometimes it
Yeah.
leads nowhere and it's just weird. But sometimes, somebody really opens another door for that. Um, I've had this from a colleague, Nell, from Applied Life. She asked, what hypothesis might you test that could generate knowing, right? So we could approach this from an experimental mindset and
Mm.
really invite our clients to become the scientists of their own life and kind of in an Adlerian way. Um, so what would we need to know? What experiment would we need to set up for you in order to know?
Yeah, that's really interesting, Yannick. I mean, I'm hearing like, yeah, curiosity and kind of clarifying questions. Um, what I'm also thinking is like, and I say this because actually, like I mentioned, this is something that sometimes comes up for me, and I know that it's not like resistance. I often have therapy right before I have our meetings, and so I like, I go from one into the other, so I can really identify with this I don't know, and that's something that came up for me, and I'm like, yeah, like I just genuinely don't know, but I didn't close the door, and what I
Hmm.
think often happens in therapy is like, or the question that just came up for me that I would be almost tempted maybe to ask a client is like, how does that feel in your body? Because I think that can like point at resistance. Like if
Mm,
I don't know is kind of, I'm feeling tense and I'm closing down and my body language is like this and I'm resistant in my tone of voice. Or is it an I don't know,
yeah.
like you said, like I just don't have that information, but please help me to explore this and to get curious and to, like start anywhere, like with experimental or whatever approach to actually get at that knowledge or find more knowledge and clarity. I like that.
Yeah, I'd like to ask that question quite a lot. Like, my modus operandi is quite cognitive, so I'd love to get involved in the
Hmm.
problem of not knowing, right, and figure it out on a knowing basis. I quite
Yeah.
enjoy that, right? But I really like to ask, well, what's it like not to know? To
Mm,
sit with your client in the not knowing, to go shoulder to shoulder with them and just be in that not knowing. What's it like not to know? What's the experience of
mm,
not knowing? Lots of stuff might come up, and that might open up some knowledge around what kind of I don't know is this. Is this protective, or is
mm,
this I don't know enough? um, so this checking into the experience of the I don't know, I think teaches us more about what kind of I don't know this is. And then we
mhm,
start learning things. So um,
mm,
yeah, I love to go that experiential way. But you could also take it as a,
mhm.
okay, here's a goal now in coaching, right? Little grow model cycle. Like, at the
Yeah,
end of this cycle, I would like to know. So
yeah,
how would that look like, this knowing? What would it come
yeah.
with? Flesh out the knowing part, a bit of like a solution focused approach, right? Tell me
Mhm,
about the knowing you. If you did know, what would that be like? How would
mhm,
you feel? What would you think? It's not necessarily about having the answer to the question that you don't know currently, but just what is it like to know in this future where you do know, you know? And so you
mm,
kind of flesh out the experience. Um, then what's it like right now, not knowing? And then how could we get there?
mhm,
Right? We can grow this problem. So what
mm,
could you do in order to know? Who would you need to talk to? What state of mind would you need to be in? Uh, what day would it be? Who do you need to expose? Who or what do you need to expose yourself to? There's
mm.
so many ways in which we can create knowing.
Yeah,
So, and then how exactly are you going to get there? Right? What's the way forward? So even a simple model as the Grow model can get you to various creative ways of creating whatever knowledge it is that you currently don't have. And what kind of
mm,
knowing is it, right? There's logical knowing, there's facts knowing, there's knowing in your body, there's like, what kind of knowing is that knowing that you're seeking? So many different
yeah,
ways in which anybody can approach this. So, but at the
absolutely.
same time, it's easy to get stuck with your client. And I think that's something to
Mm,
really pay attention to as a coach because it's still a relational practice. So if you're faced with a very strong I don't know, it's very easy for the coach to get caught in
Hmm.
that. And then all of a sudden the coach experiences, oh, I don't know how to deal with the I don't know client, right? I don't know
Mm.
a way out of this. I don't know what next question to ask. And all of a sudden, both of you don't know. And
Mm.
what I like when these things are happening, when I notice I'm getting stuck with my client, is just to really acknowledge that experience. It's like, oof, the I don't know is so strong. I notice myself getting really caught up in it. You know, even I don't know how to
Hmm.
move forward now. Ooh, what's that like? You know,
Yeah.
and so that kind of parallel process is really important for coaches to acknowledge for themselves and perhaps also with the client, so that together you can acknowledge it, because by acknowledging it you set the foundation to now move on from it,
Hmm.
because
Yeah, that's
coaches
nice.
usually
I
have a
think,
lot more resources that they think.
sure. Yeah. No, I think there was some really nice examples that you just gave of like options. There are a few like specific questions that came up for me that feel quite intuitive to use for me in that instance would be like, has there been a time in the past you've been in this position and how did you move through it then? I think that's one of the like the quite basic ones that I got taught during my coaching course.
Mm.
Or another one is, this is very much grow model from what I remember is like, what are all the things you could do, just to get them back into a place of like seeing that there is things they can do even within the uncertainty. Um, yeah, and then sorry, there was something else. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, sorry, no, that's now left me, unfortunately.
It'll come back. That
It will
past
come back.
experience of knowing, right? Tell me about a time when you knew, maybe
Hmm.
not about this, maybe about something similar. Or
Hmm.
even tell me about a time when you were just really confident. So it smells a bit like NLP, right? So like creating this
Hmm.
state of I'm a person who knows, and that can sometimes really trigger more creative potential. And then there's things from positive
Hmm.
psychology, right? Broaden and build theory. You can elicit some positive emotions, because when we're in a state of positive emotions and positive affect, we tend to think more creatively. We have more a broader thought action repertoire. That's what positive emotions
Hmm.
do. So sometimes when somebody just doesn't know, they're in this cycle of difficult emotional experience where they don't know, they feel powerless, or they,
Hmm.
feel frustrated, hopeless, whatever it may be. And just by starting a coaching session, or just seemingly changing the topic, tell me about the best thing that happened to you last week. You know,
Hmm.
even just telling a joke, or using some humor to elicit something that is a positive state.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
that can really, if you then ask the question again, that can really help. And just asking the question 3 times is sometimes
Hmm.
enough, right? You ask somebody and they say, I don't know. You ask them the exact same question in the exact same way again, and invite them to take part in it. They might still say, I don't know. You ask them a third time, often something comes out of them that they didn't know before,
Hmm.
which is, it feels so stupid. I've been on the receiving end of that exercise once, and I thought it was so stupid. They ask you a question and then you answer, and then they ask you the exact same question again. And I'm like, I hate being asked the same question again to repeat myself, but something new comes
Hmm.
out every single time. So
Hmm.
if you get over the annoyance and maybe you need to invite them into it, just go with me. If they don't block the process, then it can really help just by asking them a couple of times.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think, what's occurring to me as we're speaking is like, yeah, as a coach, I think it can feel, I don't know, for me, this like to be in that situation, I guess feels quite, it's putting the responsibility on me to unblock the client. I think what helps,
Hmm.
if that's my feelings around it, to try and like just stay calm and like appreciate that I'm
Mm.
here to facilitate, to stay curious with them, and that, I'm trying to help unblock them. And effectively, there's so many different ways, which we've just named, that you could, approach that I don't know situation and just get more information, like if the client's resistant or if they're literally just needing different options of how to navigate through that I don't know space. I've now remembered
Mm.
also the other thing that was coming to my mind, like one exercise which I remember finding really helpful, and I think that worked quite well for me with the I don't know when it came to me practicing during my coaching training was future pacing, just the one that takes you out of kind of your rational way of thinking and gets you to work backward through a creative process. I think like
Mm.
I know it's more maybe for goal setting, but I think like my brain was thinking there is a way that you could probably use that to navigate the I don't know client as well. So work backwards, like what's the last thing
Yeah.
that got you here? What's the last thing that got you here? And then, maybe they'll find it. And the other thing also was just as a coach, maybe being prepared for those situations by having some resources. And one that came to mind was the next question is, right? Like it's very well organized into different scenarios and good kind of prompts or questions to have to hand as a coach if you do get caught out. And, so I think there's so many different ways you could actually approach the I don't know client.
How do you mean? Because I'm so glad that you said what you said earlier, because I thought,
Mm,
oh, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this, because so many coaches then jump into taking the responsibility of having to know for the
yeah,
client or helping them to create
rescuing.
knowledge. And I think a lot of clients, yeah, exactly, they get into rescuing and they're like, oh, have you
Mm,
tried this? Have you tried that? Or here's a resource, or here's a book, or, oh,
mm,
I need to figure out my next question because now it's my responsibility to help them to know.
mm,
And if they don't
exactly.
know, then I'm in hot water. So when you
Yeah,
say the kind of next question preparation, I want to be careful that coaches don't work harder than the client to create knowledge.
you're
What
right.
about what did you mean by the preparation part? How can we prepare?
Well, I don't know. I was just going to say, if I'm a coach and I'm regularly finding myself caught out or like I'm feeling a bit daunted by the I don't know client, for me, I mean, either it's an opportunity for me to approach that situation a new way and learn to handle myself in a new way and not take on that responsibility. Or my other approach personally would be to
Hmm.
like, okay, a really good like umbrella question that seems to work in that situation is this question, which I've gone to find in the next question is, for example, just to mention one source, so that I'm or I have a few options that might be more relevant to different scenarios, or ahead of a client who typically says, I don't know. I don't know. I'd go and do some research around it too to try and have some more resources to hand,
Hmm.
and or I challenge myself and my own discomfort with the I don't know client.
So the
But
resources
what
are
I'm
more
saying is, I think
like, yeah. So the resources are more about offering resources to different processes that can help clients to create knowledge rather than offering knowledge or putting any knowledge on the table.
exactly right. Yeah, just a good question to help move things from the I don't know state to
Yeah.
if
I
none of
just
the ones we've already shared resonate.
Yeah, I just remembered a client where they said, I don't know. And I said something along the lines of, this is really interesting, right? Because on the top of my head, I can think about 25
Mm,
possible ways forward, right?
yeah.
And you can't think of any. And I really, this is not an attack, right? This is not to like expose you or like, but it seems like I'm not the most creative person in the world, right? But there seem to be quite a few that seem quite obvious. So I'm really curious about how come that they're not obvious to you, right? So what I'm
Mm,
doing here is I'm getting really curious about what's this block? How
mm,
come that you don't see certain things that are in plain sight? Some people
mm,
don't even consider things that are right there, right? So what is it that is in the way that I cannot
mm,
see, right? That
mm,
makes it impossible for you to see even obvious solutions. I mean, obvious is never quite that obvious, right? But so
yeah.
with that particular client, I had a good relationship. I could challenge them to that degree, right? So you need to be a bit
Mhm,
careful, so because somebody might get quite offensive when they're faced with that. But the curiosity here is really important. If you as a coach can think of 25 different solutions that could create some knowledge, and they are just don't want to or can't right now, then that seems to be a really important part to focus on, right? And then the inquiry
mm,
becomes less about what is that thing that you need to know and more about
mhm,
how come I don't see ways forward. Now, what's
mhm.
the block we need to remove in order for you to know? It becomes less
Yeah,
about the knowing and more about the how can I get there and why can't I?
yeah, yeah. It's like you're saying. I think it's less about the practicalities of the solution and more about their state of being and like, what's the block within them or the situation. So it's interesting. It
Mhm.
kind of almost points the finger in a new, and different direction in that case.
That's what coaching often
But the
does, right?
investigation one,
There's
right?
a new
Yeah,
doors that
yeah.
open.
A
Yeah,
swerve.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. Cool. Well, I think
Yeah.
we've said a lot. Is there anything that's still in your mind? I'd be happy to close it here and see what people think. That there's got to be very cool strategies to deal with I don't know clients, or very cool stories about meeting I don't know clients.
Mm,
Maybe something that we hadn't considered at
mm.
all. I don't know. Any last words, Nick?
No, I hopefully feel like we offered quite a lot of different options for people to take away and think more about. And like you said, be really curious to hear other people's experiences and how they've moved through these situations with their clients. Anything they're happy to share. Yeah. Thank you.
I
I think
think we
there's a
might have
giant
lost
lag.
Nikki. A moment of contemplation and reflection. I know if
Oh no,
Sanders
you you
would be here, we'd go for another 5 minutes for sure. So shout out
this
to
will
you,
be some funny
Silvash.
editing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there you're back.
Yeah, yeah.
That is going to be. Nikki, cool. Let's leave it at this point. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for tuning in from your time abroad, and I'll see you next time.
See you soon.
All right, that was us talking about coaching. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I appreciate your commitment to being the best coach you can be. I always say, if any of this resonates, make it swing. We grow through conversations. So if you found value in this episode, please go on and share it, or with another coaching colleague of yours or a friend. Anything that we can do to help people get inspired to reflect more on their coaching and be better coaches. I really believe in the generative impact that coaching has. So if you wanted to support the coaching and this mission, then what you can do is share this, right? Talk to somebody, send a link to someone, have that conversation with someone. What would really help us is to leave a positive review or a rating on one of the podcasting platforms. Um, Generally, the more people we reach, the more time and effort we can put into creating these episodes for you. And higher quality means also more conversations, maybe inviting high profile guests into the conversation. That'd be a dream of ours. So you can make this worth it. And I appreciate you being with us, and I appreciate you considering to help. So thank you. See you soon. Send us a question.